Hi everyone! I'm excited to finally be back with a new Beauty and the Beast episode. It's been such a long time, right? It's been way too long. I've honestly missed you guys. I honestly missed connecting with you all. I've got to admit, I've been a bit lazy with my skincare lately, and well, pregnancy has me feeling like a puffy marshmallow all the time. Yeah, I've been less confident with my skin acting up and feeling bloated. But yeah, I'm getting back on track now and I'm ready to share some new tips and spooky stories with you. Yeah, and speaking of skin condition, like, oh my God, nobody told me this about pregnancy. You know, like my skin has been all over the place lately. And as I'm getting closer to my due date, which is the 8th of November, it's happening very soon. It's like my face decided to throw a little party. You know, breakouts and acne are popping up in spots I didn't even know existed, you know, like this area. Yeah, I've been, feeling a lot of stress because of that. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this glowing phase. And I mean, in a puffy, shiny way. Anyways, today's story is straight from Korea. And it's got a little twist of shamanism in it. As many of you might know, there is a strong superstitious belief here involving shamans. Whenever you feel like we've seen a ghost or some kind of spirit, the first thing we do is go see a shaman. I mean, like, I would even run to one if things got spooky enough. Here's a quick gist of the story. It's about a guy who moves into a new apartment and starts experiencing some seriously creepy stuff. He finds like strange objects around his house placed in weird spots, and this man with a scarred face appearing out of nowhere. Like, things get so out of control that he finally goes to a shaman for help. But the ritual to get rid of the spirit isn't as easy as he thought, and let's just say it gets way more intense than anyone expected. So buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. Okay, so today's story happened in a neighborhood called Pogwangdong in Seoul. Pogwangdong is a typical residential area in Seoul, and it's full of small villas. So when I say small villas in Korea, these aren't the lavish mansions the word villa might bring to mind. In Korea, villas are modest, low-rise apartments, smaller and cheaper than the high-rise buildings in the city. And it's in one of these unassuming villas that a man named Konu, who shared his story online, had an experience that would change his life forever. So Konu, this man, was raised by nuns and grew up as a devout Catholic. So he never believed in superstitions or ghosts. But 4 years ago, when he moved into a villa in Pogwangdong, which is located in Yongsan-gu, Seoul, that all changed. What he encountered there made him question everything he thought he knew about the supernatural. Whoops, I forgot to take off my eyelashes. Okay. So it was April 2017. Konu was excited to move into his new apartment, to his new place, and his good friend named Songju came over to help him settle in. So they spent the day, hauling boxes, unpacking. To freshen up the stuffy air inside, they opened all the windows. And that is when they noticed something was not right. There were strange objects placed near the window, which looked like cinnamon sticks. So Songju asked, why are there cinnamon sticks here? Like holding up a small bundle he'd found on the windowsill. And at first, it didn't seem like a big deal because cinnamon sticks are sometimes used to repel bugs. So Konu just didn't think much of it. He just shrugged it off. But as they looked around, they realized there weren't just 1 or 2 cinnamon sticks scattered here and there. They were everywhere. They were like sticks jammed into the window cracks, like tucked into the seams of the balcony door, and like even crammed into the small gaps of the bathroom window. And it just didn't stop there. Cinnamon sticks were stuffed under the shoe cabinet by the front door too. In total, Konu estimated there were at least 60 sticks around the apartment. And yeah, like it was unnerving. Why would anyone go through the trouble of placing that many cinnamon sticks in such odd places? And as creepy as it wasn't the strangest thing they found. Inside the bathroom, Konu discovered something far more disturbing. Like hidden deep inside the bathroom cupboard was a piece of toilet paper. And not just toilet paper, it was stained with something that looked like feces. I mean, that's gross, right? It was like neatly folded and tucked so far back that it seemed as though someone had deliberately placed it there in a spot where no one would easily reach. And this discovery, at his new home, left Konu feeling unsettled, but he tried to shake it off. Like things can happen, right? He just didn't want to ruin the big day. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of the nightmare. So, 6 months passed and the life in the villa was quiet. Konu had almost forgotten about the cinnamon sticks and the, strange piece of toilet paper. But one morning, he woke up to chaos. His entire house was a wreck. His dog had chewed through the cinnamon sticks, tearing them apart and scattering them all over the floor. He, scrambled to clean up the mess, sweating and out of breath. He thought it was just a bad morning. But as he stepped outside to head to work, something, or rather someone, made his heart stop. Standing right in front of his door was a young man, dressed in all black and his head facing down, assuming it was a visitor for one of the neighbors. But the man stood there motionless, as if he were waiting for something or someone. But then Konu blinked, and in an instant, the man just disappeared. Yeah, he was gone. He was confused and a little shaken because there was no way out in that direction. Yeah, he didn't believe in ghosts, so he dismissed this happening as a trick of the light. Maybe he was just tired. But that night, when his friend Seungju came over again, they both saw this man. And this time, he was standing in the same spot, just outside the door. Seungju, he looked scared, and he whispered, "Don't look at him. Don't look at him." He grabbed Konu by the arm, and he pulled him inside. Remember that the man just vanished when Konu saw him the first time, so as they hurried in, Konu couldn't resist a quick glance back. He did, and this man was still there, but his head was still bowed. His head was kind of facing down, but this time he slowly lifted his head. So Konu actually saw his face. And his face was terrifying. It was covered in scars, not just little scars, but deep cuts that crisscrossed his entire face, as though, it had been savagely slashed with a knife. And Konu was so scared, he was so frightened. So he asked his friend, did you see that? He stammered, his voice was barely above a whisper. Seungju, he didn't answer directly. Like, he told him, like, don't look at him. Like, don't acknowledge him. Just pretend you didn't see anything. And his tone was serious. That night, Konu lay in bed. But for some reason, he was unable to sleep. His mind raced with thoughts of that scarred man. Like, was it real? Or was his mind just playing tricks on him again? But then in the middle of the night, he heard a strange thumping sound, like right by his ear, like echoing right by his ear. So that was when he opened his eyes and he saw legs dressed in black pants standing right beside him on his bed. That scene was terrifying enough in itself, but the man started speaking to him. Like, the man spoke, "You can see me, can't you?" And those words, like echoed in Konu's head, and he freezed. He couldn't move. This man started laughing hysterically, and he started darting around the room like it was some twisted joke. So the room felt like it was spinning. And just as Konu started to, like lose himself with the madness, he almost passed out. A loud vibration from the table snapped him back to reality. So it was his phone. It was his phone ringing. He grabbed his phone and his hands were like apparently shaking. He answered hello, and it was Seungju. Seungju called him to check up on him. He asked him, "Hey, like, are you okay?" Yeah, and his voice, on the other hand, provided him some comfort. And he told him, like, I just saw something really weird. Konu was still catching his breath. There was this guy, his face, it was full of scars, and he was just staring at me. And when he told him, there was this eerie silence on the other end. Then in a serious tone, Seungju asked him, "Did you get rid of the cinnamon sticks?" And Konu said, like what? Like, how did you know? And Seungju suddenly sighed and he told him, "I didn't want to freak you out earlier, but ever since you moved in, that guy has been standing outside your house, like from day one." And Konu's stomach dropped, like, who was this man? And Seungju continued, explaining that he believed the cinnamon sticks had been protecting the house. And now that they are gone, whatever was lurking had free reign. So he told him, "Look, I know this sounds weird. I know this sounds crazy. You need to replace those cinnamon sticks with new ones, like, here's what you have to do." And he started telling him the steps that he should follow. He told him to buy new cinnamon sticks, close all the windows, and light the cinnamon like incense. He told him to let the smell fill the house for 10 minutes, and then open one window to let the spirit out. Konu wasn't a superstitious person, but like, he had no options. Like, he moved in to his new apartment. Konu followed the instructions. The house was filled with the scent of cinnamon, and as he sat waiting there, like, he felt his body growing heavy, and before he knew it, his eyes closed and he drifted off to sleep. And then suddenly Konu just woke with a start. The air was thick with tension, and in the middle of the room, there was the scarred man again. And this time he was screaming in pain. He's screaming in agony, clutching his head, and he was crawling desperately across the floor. So he thought, maybe this is working. The ritual was driving him out. All he had to do now was just open the door, and the spirit would be gone for good. That was his initial thought. Just as he reached for the handle to open the window, the man suddenly screamed. He was screaming in this angry voice, "You think this will make me leave? You dare try to banish me. You have to die." Before Konu could even react, the man just lunged at him, wrapping his cold hands around his throat. And that moment, Konu just passed out. Everything went black. And when Konu finally woke back up, the room was quiet. The man was gone. So what was he gonna do now? Like, the ritual didn't work? But then he suddenly remembered what Seungju had told him. I know you're a religious person and you're not into, like these supernatural stuff, but if this doesn't work, if the ritual doesn't work, maybe you should go see a shaman. A few days later, after thinking about it over and over again, Konu just gave in. He began calling every shaman he could find. But one after another, he dialed the numbers, but all he got were dead ends. Beep, the number you're calling is not available. The number you're calling is not available. Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, he tried over 13 places, left messages, but no shaman replied. And just when he was about to give up, one shaman finally called back. The shaman told him, make sure you visit. Come to me. The tone of this message was eerie, like almost as if this shaman had been expecting him, like knowing what was going on. Maybe it wasn't the first time someone would move into that apartment and call him because of some haunted spirit. And after thinking about it for quite some time, reluctantly, he made the decision to visit the shaman. As soon as he got to the shaman house, the shaman looked at him and said, "It's a man. His face is a mess." And the shaman's word sent a shiver down Konu's spine, like, how did he know that? And it wasn't just that this shaman knew about the man with the scarred face, the shaman knew everything. His appearance, the clothes he wore, and even details about Konu's life. So the shaman told him, I can write you a talisman, but remember, this talisman provides temporary protection. It's not permanent. The shaman said, like, when you eventually move to another place and leave that house, you have to burn the talisman and let it go. You have to get rid of it. And you must remember this. So the shaman handed Konu 17 talismans, each intricately folded and marked with symbols like he couldn't decipher. So she gave him specific instructions, like place the talisman in key areas around the house and make sure they stayed undisturbed. Konu followed her directions to the letter, and as soon as the talismans were placed, the scarred man stopped appearing. And finally, he was able to feel that sense of relief. And after that, his life was quite peaceful in the house. Weeks turned into months, and before he knew it, 2 years had passed. And now it was time to move out. And with the move came the task of burning the talismans, as the shaman had instructed. Konu didn't want to do it alone, so he called his friend Seungju, the friend who had been by his side since this all began. So he asked for his help, but there was a catch. The shaman had told him, the shaman had warned, when you burn the talismans, someone, whether it's a neighbor, a passerby, or even the police, will try to stop you. No matter what, you will have to burn them completely. So he told this to Seungju, and Seungju was quick to reassure him, like, don't worry, I'll handle anything that happens. Just focus on burning the talismans, okay? That's what he said. And with a plan in place, Konu gathered the talismans, the 17 talismans, and locked himself in the bathroom in case someone tries to stop him from doing it. In the bathroom, he started burning them one by one. The paper crackled and curled into ash, filling the air with a strange scent as the smoke swirled around him in the bathroom. As he was burning the talisman, he was halfway through it. There was a scream outside the bathroom. Seungju, what's going on? What's happening? Konu called out as he heard a commotion outside the bathroom. Seungju's voice rang out, but it wasn't calm like before. It was frantic, panicked. He was screaming out. He was screaming, don't come in, stay away. And Konu froze, like his heart pounded, but he remembered what the shaman told him. No matter what, you have to finish burning the talismans. His hands shook as he kept burning them, one after another, trying to ignore the chaos outside the door. And after a moment of silence, he heard Seungju outside the door screaming for his help. "Konu, I'm hurt. Open the door for a second." His voice was desperate, like he asked him to open the door repeatedly, but Konu knew he couldn't open the door yet because he was still burning the talisman. So he told him, "I can't come out until I'm finished. I'm almost done. Just wait a little longer." This Seungju, he started screaming, "Konu, no, I'm hurt. Open the door now." And he started swearing, "You bastard, open this door right now. I will kill you if you don't open it." And the voice had changed. It wasn't Seungju anymore. And he started pounding on the door, and the pounding grew louder, more aggressive, as if someone was trying to tear it down. Konu was so scared. His hands worked frantically as he burned the last talisman. With his still trembling hands, he flushed the remains down the toilet, just as the shaman had instructed. Suddenly, everything went silent. The air was still, and everything was just so calm all of a sudden. Konu hesitated before unlocking the bathroom door. But when he finally opened it, he found Seungju collapsed on the floor, and he was unconscious. He just passed out. He rushed to his friend's side, and fortunately, Seungju soon regained consciousness. He had no memory of what had just happened. The shouting, the threats, the banging on the door, he didn't remember anything. And fortunately, despite this terrifying time, the terrifying ordeal, Konu had completed the ritual. And the talismans were burned, the spirit vanished, and Konu moved out of the villa without further incident. And since then, he never saw the scarred man again. If he opened that bathroom door, what could have happened to him? Right? It's so scary. The villa, the actual villa in Pugwangdong still stands. And sometimes Konu wonders if the man who haunted him is still there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for someone new to find him. So, what do you all think about this story? Do you believe it was just an illusion, a trick of the mind? Or do you think it was the spirit of someone who died miserably in that house, desperately trying to keep people out of what he still considered his home? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's definitely a spooky experience. I'm really curious to hear what you all make of this one. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you had a soothing yet spine-tingling experience, which is quite a strange combo. I'm glad you joined me for this eerie adventure. I can't wait to bring you more. So see you in the next one.